We are going into game 2 between NEXGenius and Loner. If you would like NEXGenius to win this game and take it to another best of 3, give a cheer for NEXGenius! And if you would like Loner, the Chinese superhero, to pull it back 2-1, give a cheer for Loner.
So over here at the bottom left, we have our Chinese Terran player, Loner. He played really well in that last game. He just didn't spot that expansion in time. I think overall his scouting was pretty weak, but he could pull through with a win on this map. You never know. He's a very good player. Up here at the top right, we have NEXGenius, who just had stellar, almost perfect play. It's going to be a tough game for Loner, I think.
Yeah, NEXGenius, he is such a monster, and he wants to come back. It was a very close match when they hit in the winner bracket final. And in fact, many people thought that NEXGenius would take it down, but, you know, one mistake and Loner is going to kill you.
But you know, it was really hard for Loner in that last game because on Scrap Station we talked a lot about distances and timing, but there's just not a lot of space to move around. Always very, very tight corridors. The Marines and Marauders tend to just naturally pack together to be able to get stormed and Colossus to death, but on Xel'Naga Caverns, a lot of space, very easy to micro.
Well, so far nobody's done anything too crazy. You know, it's a one-on-one map, so sometimes we see people do moves that are very aggressive, like making gateways outside your opponent's base in regions like this, or sometimes even hiding them inside. But looks like both these guys have a lot of respect for each other. They're just going to try to play a pretty standard game.
Yeah, a lot of the time when you see someone try to cheese early, you know, make those gateways outside the base, try to get a quick win, it's because the player is a lot better than them. Both these players are having such close games. They realize that, well, you know, you want to have that long game because likely you're going to be stopped if you try to rush.
Pretty much synchronized scouting patterns here for these two. Now note this, he's going to harass the SCV, which is making the barracks. That means he's going to have to take that SCV off. He actually might even be able to get the SCV. That would be a huge blow to Loner early on.
Loner's trying to do a surround, but does manage to pull out at the last second. There still is a wounded SCV back there. Always very, very effective play. Again, got to make use out of all your units. May as well do a little harassment with the worker. And meanwhile, in NEXGenius's base, same basic structure, a gateway, a cybernetics core, and a gas geyser down.
That's right. We're not really going to see any deviations from the normal openers in Terran vs. Protoss until they can get rid of these scouts. The SCV and the probe can see what's going on, and until you remove them with a ranged unit that they can't run away from, then they are going to be there looking over your shoulder every second, and you just don't want to show them what you're doing.
Absolutely, and something we didn't talk about last game are these Xel'Naga towers that are in the center of the map. If you have a unit next to it, it gives a huge space of vision, and vision is one of the most important resources in StarCraft 2 because you cannot see everything that is going on around the map. Making sure your opponent is not swinging around for a hidden attack or just trying to do some scout, so key you have vision of the map at all points in time.
And as if to highlight what you said, Day 9, both of them have one watchtower looking around the center of the map. They need to know if their opponent is moving out for an attack.
Factory almost complete here. Loner not going to go for that second barracks early like he did in the previous game. This could mean a lot of different things. He could go for Banshees. You know, he could go... We did see Clyde in the GSL go for Hellions. There's all sorts of strategies you can do. So, you know, Terran... That's one thing about Terran, actually, is that Terran, I think, has the most options of the way they can dictate the game in StarCraft 2.
And it looks like an expansion nexus is going down for NEXGenius. Very nice play. And if we actually go into his main, look at this. He has one geyser that is not being mined from at all. He just built that geyser to convince his opponent that he was doing some sort of big tech and just never mined anything from it. Very, very clever play. That's a lot about those mind games we're talking about, Artosis.
Yeah, the mind games are very important. And this game looks like it's going to turn into a battle of the wills, an expansion build against a tech build. And we have a reactor being made there on the factory and a tech lab on the barracks. We may see a Raven out for point defense drone to really crush stalkers, and then maybe some Marine Banshee play, a very strong timing rush.
Loner played with many Legos as a child, swapping all those buildings around with their respective add-ons. He's getting a Banshee from that starport, and he's giving the reactor to the barracks to get plenty of Marines.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. It looks like he is going to go for the getting a bunch of Marines. A Banshee, we guessed Raven, but it is going to be a Banshee. But Marine Banshee timing rushes are very, very deadly. Absolutely. And they're going to get a siege tank with it as well.
Wow, that's going to be quite a force that he's moving out with. Now, he may still think that there's no expansion going on, but you know, NEXGenius, he's getting a lot of gateways, going to pump out a bunch of units, and whoever wins the first confrontation is going to be miles ahead.
Now, what NEXGenius is doing is getting 4 warp gates right after he gets his expansion, way more than you would ordinarily want at this phase in the game, but he needs as many units as he can to protect against any sort of early push. So NEXGenius is doing the smart thing, but he's kind of committed to playing defender for this point in time. So Loner is now moving out with a Banshee to try to exploit how spread out his opponent will be, to try to pick off some workers, put him behind economically.
Now, something really interesting just happened. The Banshee is on its way to NEXGenius space, and he skirted around the Xel'Naga watchtower exactly. He knows this map inside out. Here we go, harassing the probes. 1 probe down, 2 probes down, and kiting to try to get away from Stalkerfire. Another probe.
We got a little bold. Oh, my goodness. That is the problem with getting a little bit too greedy up on the main stage. You want to kill off as many probes as you can, but even if you kill 1 and then back away, that's still a victory.
He's going to move out now. The Banshee is not just good for harassing. You can actually use it in the middle of a battle.
That's right. It does great damage from the air against ground units. Very hard to deal with early on, so that's going to help him out a lot in this push. Now, this push, I think, is going to be mostly about using the force fields well. He's got to split the army in half and make it so that Loner can't micro by running away, shooting, or kiting, as we call it. And here we go. It is about time.
Oh, a wasted force field.
Yeah, missed force field. Sometimes players want to catch units in the middle so that half the army's blocked off and you can pick it off. Looks like he might actually rush to the main to try to relocate the Stalkers.
That's a great idea, and it doesn't look like he's going to buy it. Maybe he should move into the middle line, and now he realizes, uh-oh, I have to send some Stalkers up there.
Take a look here, 2 bunkers.
This is awesome. Siege mode is being researched as well, and that Banshee getting a few kills, but being maybe a little bit too greedy, like Dana was talking about earlier.
And he's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
It's okay. No problem. We see a couple bunkers being made. Siege mode is almost done. Siege mode, of course, will make those siege tanks reach much further than any other unit in the game. He can do a nice push then, and this is actually a pretty scary place for NEXGenius to be in.
And if we go look at the robotics facility at the natural expansion, a warp prism is being constructed. This is a special transport unit for air, but more importantly, it creates an energy field where you can warp in units, but it looks like Loner is already gearing up for a very aggressive push, sieging up, slowly creeping forward with bunkers and trying to use these Banshees to just scoot all of NEXGenius's units into awkward positions, but NEXGenius is not going to bite. He's very, very careful to position himself.
That's right, he's not budging at all, and in the meantime, Loner is expanding back at home to his natural base. That command center has just finished up, morphing into an orbital command to call down mules, and it looks like his economy is going to catch up pretty quickly, especially with this Banshee harassment.
Here we go, the battle started up.
It is time. He's not loaded in the bunker, though, so these Zealots are going to do a lot of damage.
The Immortal drop at the back is picking off the tanks. Look at the Zealots swarming forward. NEXGenius is annihilating this push by Loner, and now the Warp Prism has created the energy field. He can warp in. There are more units warping into the battlefield. That was way more one-sided than it should have been, but that genius positioning by Genius was really genius, actually.
Yes, it was.
We got another Banshee in here. He needs to do some damage here. I think the Protoss might even just try to go for the kill move now and end this.
Yeah, it does look like that. Deals with that Banshee, and the supplies are hugely different now. 82 against 60, and this early in the game, that is a gigantic difference.
Protoss now moving southward. He's going to go for the base. I don't know if the Terran has enough. You can see Loner even trying to make buildings in the way so the units can't get there as easily.
Yeah, he has a couple bunkers. He does have Banshees and Siege tanks. It's going to be hard to really engage this as the Protoss player, but he has so much more, and he's just going to go for it. Zealots charging in. Stalkers hitting that bunker. SCV's coming out, though, to block and to repair. Here comes,
losing that Warp Prism. That was a key unit. It was going to be designed to warp in units next to those tanks and pick them off. And look at this Loner. Not only has defended, but has equalized the score. He is back in this game. He has unequalized the score. My
At least he kept that Banshee alive. For the time being, both these guys are taking pretty heavy shots at each other. But as you could look at the resource counting station up here, their supplies are almost even. So Loner still does have a chance.
And right now, if we take a look at what's in production, we are going to see Colossi enter battle relatively soon. He's making that robotics support bay and still pumping out Immortals, a very good unit against the siege tanks. So I really like what both players are doing at this point.